Imagine trying to organize a library with millions of books, but with absolutely no system. No card catalog, no genres, nothing. That's pretty much the challenge scientists were up against trying to classify all the different kinds of life on Earth. So today, we're going to dive into that quest, the mission to bring some order to all that beautiful biological chaos. Okay, get ready for this number, 8.7 million species. Just let that sink in for a second. That's not just a big number, it's a puzzle with millions and millions of totally unique pieces. So, where do you even start? How in the world do you begin to make sense of all that? Well, let's take a look at how scientists first tried to put this incredible puzzle together. So, the story really starts with just simple observations. Way back in ancient Greece, you had Aristotle grouping plants by their size. Are they big like a tree, medium like a shrub, or small like an herb? Pretty straightforward. Fast forward a couple thousand years, and Carl Linnaeus gives us this neat two-kingdom system. You're either a plant or you're an animal. And that was a huge step. But as science got better, that simple system started to show some serious cracks, which paved the way for a total game changer, R.H. Whittaker and his big idea in 1969. Right. So what was so wrong with just having two kingdoms? Seems simple enough. Well, the problem was that as our tools got better, especially with the invention of the microscope, we started seeing all this stuff that just didn't fit. You couldn't just shove everything into a plant box or an animal box anymore. The system was breaking down. And this is where it gets really obvious. Okay, take fungi, like a mushroom. They got lumped in with plants, but hold on. They don't use sunlight for food. They're doing something completely different. Then you've got bacteria. Yeah, they have a cell wall like a plant, but their cells are way simpler. And then you have the real oddballs, like euglena. This little guy can make its own food in the sun like a plant, but if it's in the dark, it starts hunting and eating like an animal. So what is it? The two-kingdom system just had no good answer. See, the old system was really just based on what we could see with our own eyes. It totally missed the most important details, the stuff hidden at the microscopic and evolutionary level. Things like, what are your cells actually like? Are you made of one cell or many? How do you get your food? And how are you related to everything else, evolutionarily speaking? A new system was desperately needed, one that could actually handle all this hidden complexity. And enter R.H. Whittaker. He looked at all of these missing pieces, all of these problems, and came up with a new five-kingdom system that just completely changed how we see the tree of life. It was a moment of pure scientific brilliance. And here it is, his elegant solution. The first and most important split is based on cell type. In one corner, you have the prokaryotes. These are organisms with simple cells, no nucleus. They all go into one kingdom, Monera. Everyone else, all the organisms with more complex cells that do have a nucleus, the eukaryotes, make up the other four kingdoms. And from there, Whittaker sorted those kingdoms based on other key things, like how they get their food or their body structure. All of a sudden, everything just clicked into place. Now, you might be thinking, that's a lot to remember. But here's a simple trick for you. Just remember this little sentence. My poor friend plays alone. That's Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae, and Animalia. See? Easy. All right, now that we have our brand new map of life, let's start our journey. We'll begin with the oldest, the simplest, and honestly, the most fundamental life forms on the entire planet. So, Kingdom Monera is home to all the prokaryotes. Again, those are the organisms with really simple cells that don't have a true nucleus. And you know who belongs here? It's a one-member club, bacteria. But you should never, ever underestimate bacteria just because they're simple. These guys are the most abundant life forms on Earth, and they are found in every single environment you can possibly imagine. I mean, literally everywhere, from the dirt in your garden to boiling hot springs. And the way they get energy, their metabolism, is more diverse than any other kingdom out there. It's truly mind-boggling. Next up, we have Kingdom Protista. Now, I like to call this the junk drawer of the biological world. It's basically where we put all the single-celled eukaryotes that just don't seem to fit in anywhere else. Protista is this incredibly varied group of single-celled eukaryotes. But what makes them so important is the role as a kind of evolutionary bridge. They're the link that connects the ancient, simple bacteria to the more complex kingdoms we know and love, fungi, plants, and animals. And hey, don't just take my word for it. Even scientists will tell you that, quote, the boundaries of this kingdom are not well defined. It really is a kingdom of misfits. But that ambiguity doesn't make it a bad category. It just makes Protista an incredibly fascinating and constantly changing area of study. And to get a sense of just how cool this kingdom is, just look at the diatoms. Their cell walls are made of silica, which is basically glass, and they're built in two halves that fit together absolutely perfectly, just like a little intricate soapbox. It's just a beautiful example of nature's artistry at a microscopic level. Okay, moving on to kingdom fungi, which I like to think of as nature's great recyclers. You've definitely seen them, maybe on a pizza, maybe growing in the woods, but trust me, there is so much more to fungi than what you can see. Fungi are total masters of absorption. They don't eat in the way we do. Instead, they just secrete enzymes and absorb nutrients directly from whatever they're growing on. Some are what we call saprophytes, breaking down dead stuff and recycling those nutrients back into the ecosystem. And others are parasites, getting their food from living hosts. And fungi are so much more than just mushrooms. This incredible kingdom includes the single-celled yeast that helps us make bread and beer, and of course the mold penicillium, the stuff that gave us penicillin, one of the single most important medical discoveries in all of human history. Yeah, they're pretty important. So we've explored the 5 kingdoms, but our story isn't quite over, because there is a whole other world of biological things that exist on the absolute fringes of life itself. These are strange agents that really challenge our definition of what it even means to be alive. First up, we've got viruses. The best way to think of them as biological pirates. They're not even made of cells. When they're outside of a host, they're about as alive as a grain of salt. They can only spring into action when they hijack the cells of other living things to make more of themselves. They are the ultimate parasite. And just when you thought it couldn't get any simpler or weirder than a virus, we discovered the viroid. See, a virus is just some genetic material wrapped up in a protein coat. A viroid, found in 1971, is even more stripped down. It's just a single, naked strand of RNA. No coat, no protection, just pure infectious code. And then there are prions. These are like the zombies of the protein world. They have no genetic material at all. No DNA, no RNA. They're just misfolded proteins that somehow trigger a terrifying chain reaction, causing other normal proteins to misfold just like them. It's this cascade that leads to devastating diseases like mad cow disease. So all of this leaves us with a really fascinating and fundamental question. Are viruses actually alive? I mean, they can replicate. They can evolve, 2 of the key hallmarks of life, but they aren't made of cells and are completely lifeless without a host. This question really pushes the boundaries of our understanding, and it's a great reminder that the world of biology is still filled with profound mysteries, just waiting to be solved.